What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Virzi Effect podcast show. My name is Paul Virzi. You guys listened to episode 572. Thank you guys so much for liking and subscribing and making the show grow since we've been in studio here. I don't know how many we've actually done here, but thank you guys so much. Keep writing reviews, share, subscribe, all that. It makes the show go up, and get the Virzi Effect everywhere you get your podcast, iTunes, Spotify. Dude, my guest on the show this week is somebody I wanted to get in here for so long. One of my favorite comics, one of my favorite people, the best. Dan Soder is here on TVE in studio.
Woo! First time we've done this in the studio.
Yeah, dude,
you have a catalog, by the way. You're like 576. I was like, those are episodes. You're like The Simpsons.
But dude, I was like, when this shit first started, I'd be in my car. Dude, because I didn't know how to do anything.
I think I've did multiple episodes in your car.
You did an episode in the car talking about that issue that you had back in the day, like kidnapping or some shit.
Oh yeah, where I got robbed, and we also talked about the 49ers and the Giants.
Yeah.
This was during the Harbaugh years.
Yeah.
That's how long ago it was.
Dude, I would just be like, all right, dude, I'll record and just say thanks to the people that came out to the Funny Bone in Syracuse.
Dude, it was so fun. You just come up and be like, do you want to go do my podcast? And you're like, yeah, where's your podcast? You're like, parked over on like 13th Street. And you're like, oh, all right.
Dude, me and Dan were like in the winter in my car. He's like shivering, telling me how he got robbed.
Yeah.
What's up, dude? How you doing, man?
I'm good. How about you?
Oh, dude. So good, man. So good. Glad to see you. Glad to have you here. I wanted, just because it just was the first thing on my mind when I thought about, I wanted you guys to beat the Eagles in a way. Dude, I became, during that game, I became, like, I almost started to, like, text you going, like,
dude,
it's Giants and then San Francisco. The Eagles were just too good, man. Too good, I guess.
That was the worst experience I've ever had watching a game.
Was it really?
And I went to the Super Bowl where they lost to the Chiefs. And I would say that experience, the NFC Championship game, was worse than any professional sports game I've ever watched. The experience of, because Eagles, a lot of Eagles fans, and like people that have heard me talk about this know like where I went mentally, and it was not good because Big J, Eagles fan, Joe DeRosa, Eagles fan. Mike Vecchione, Eagles fan. Well, Joe DeRosa, not a sports fan, but he cheers for the Eagles.
Right.
I watched it. Jay had a big party. He had people over. He invited me, and I politely was like...
You can't do that.
No.
No.
No. Not only because if we were in a vacuum and it was like me and Jay watching the game, that would be all right.
Right.
But you add in friends who don't care about football... In this intense of a game, you can't do it. So I was like, I'll watch it at home. And I'll watch it with Katie. And then Katie got a job in L.A., so she was like, earlier in the week, she's like, I got to fly to L.A. on Sunday. And I was like, all right, I'll just watch it alone with the dog. Bad idea. Because
but better you and the dog than being with fucking Big J and DeRosa.
Big J would have made me laugh. Big J would have made me laugh because
I know what you mean.
Because he understood what happened.
Right.
For those of you who don't know, Brock Purdy's elbow got blown out, and we didn't have a quarterback.
Was that the first series? Was that your first offensive series?
Second.
Or second? Okay.
Second, and then blows his elbow out. Josh Johnson just screws it up.
Dude, I've never seen a team have to get to 4 quarterbacks. I've never seen that.
Yeah.
Who's next? McCaffrey, right? McCaffrey was next?
They gave him the helmet with the green sticker on it.
So he's number 5.
Yeah. But what's crazy is Juwan Jennings, one of our receivers, was a 4-star quarterback out of high school. So you're almost like, we'll have Juwan Jennings. I don't know. But they were like scrambling. And just watching the NFC Championship game without a quarterback was brutal.
What's hard to watch is when your team has no chance. But not only no chance, it keeps getting worse.
It just... When Brock Purdy came back in, I was like, man, and Eagles fans, as you know, are very, very loud.
Oh, dude.
But what took the heat off the Eagles fans was your boy Thibodeau started talking some shit on Twitter, being like, we're as good as the 49ers. And immediately Eric Armstead, after the game, quote tweeted it and was like, stop. I've watched your film. Stop.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah,
and Thibodeau was like, I don't, because Joe Staley started talking shit. Retired tackle. And Thibodeau was like, I don't know this. I don't know who you are, because he does that now. When he disrespects someone, he goes, I don't know who that is. But then he got called out immediately where people are like, but aren't you a student of the game?
Right.
So you know who they are. And then I looked at the old schedule, 49ers Giants in San Francisco this year. It's going to be a bloodbath.
Oh, this year?
Yeah, you guys are coming to San Francisco.
What week?
I don't know.
Dude, you know that I know the GM and owner?
Of the Giants?
No, the 49ers.
What, Jed York?
And they were like, yeah, Jed York was like, anytime you're in town, come through.
Jed's the man.
Dude, Jed York is a comedy fan.
Yeah, I know. Like, yeah, I've met Jed, hung out with him because of other friends.
You know who was great? The president, not Lynch. Who's the other guy?
The vice president
the
of
Italian kid.
Oh yeah, him
and his wife, they were amazing.
Well, they got Adam Peters. They got like a lot of great people in that organization. And Jed's the man.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'd go to the Giants Niners.
Hook this Jed. Listen, me and Soder that week we come out, dude. Oh, dude, that would be.
I hope we beat the brakes off of you guys. Well, the best part is,
but like San Francisco and the Giants don't have a hatred, do they?
There was an old rivalry. When you guys bounced Montana's head off the fucking floor.
Leonard Marshall, dude.
Off the floor
dude,
of...
He was motionless like a fuck.
Dude, he go to the hospital. You guys took him. I was a child.
When he went limp, when his head went down and he went limp, I was like, that was the first. I was a little kid,
me too.
And I go like, that's bad.
Yeah, it's in the documentary. The Joe Montana documentary on Peacock is great, and he talks about that. And they show the hit, and you're like, oh, I forgot the Meadowlands was like concrete with a layer of carpet on it. So he like hits his head, and he's like. And you're like, oh, no.
You know what's crazy about the NFL? Do you remember? I don't know if you remember this. I'm a Giants fan, but you might remember this. The Jets drafted a kid named Blair Thomas out of Penn State back in the day, but it was probably, I'm a couple years older than you.
Yeah.
So Blair Thomas was like that generation Saquon out of Penn State. Like the fucking dude.
Yeah.
Jets get him. And it doesn't really pan out for him, right? And Freeman McNeil was a guy on the Jets.
Yeah.
And he was a big name on the Jets. And he said he's on the sideline. And he said this is quoted. I can't believe he actually said it because it's kind of fucked up. He said after Blair Thomas got hit the first time in the NFL, he ran back to the sideline. Freeman McNeil goes, I looked at his face, and he goes, I knew he wouldn't make it.
Really?
He said, first hit that the kid took a pop in the NFL, he said he ran back, and he goes, when I saw in his face, because it's that different.
The violence on that level.
Dude.
When I was growing up, I've like talked about it to an obnoxious point, but growing up with McDaniel, there was like a hookup or being friends with him where I could go around the Broncos facility because his stepdad worked for the Broncos. And I got to go to a practice at training camp when Al Wilson, I was in college. So Al Wilson just got drafted by the Broncos out of Tennessee.
Yeah.
And they were just shorts, shoulder pads, and helmets. Yeah. And Al Wilson hit a guy where I was like, oh, it like offended me. I was like, oh, and it's practice. He just hit a guy, and you're like, these guys are smashing into each other. So I bet if you're like a vet and you see a rookie come in,
dude, and you're probably watching.
Yeah.
Like you're like, let's see how this kid handles this.
Yeah, it's like watching someone go first at the cellar for the first time. You're like, are you ready? Are you ready to really feel bad about yourself?
You know what I love? This is why you're literally like, you're one of the handful of guys that like instantly, like if you don't like Dan Soder, it's you and fuck you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, all my enemies.
There are certain, no, but you don't have enemies.
No, I don't know.
Like,
people get annoyed with me.
To not like you, it's kind of like, because like you're a guy, but what I love about seeing you in clubs is that comedy shit talking that's private. Yeah. The locker room talk. Yeah. I don't know if anyone's better locker room talk. I
love locker
you
room
have
talk.
like me and you. I remember one time me and you we looked at something at the stand. We watched and we kind of, the nice thing is we looked at each other and knew. Yeah.
You're like,
and then you just talk. You're like, okay, like it's like the understanding.
Yeah. You
it's
watch
the
some
best.
horse shit and you just look to someone else and you go, what?
Yeah. Like,
what the fuck?
You know what it is? Like fake bullshit.
Yeah.
It's like when you could see it, you know?
Yeah, when you could see when you can see someone that's like not doing jokes. Because sometimes people get big on personality. And so you like watch their personality and you're like, what is this? Or when you see someone have a crutch and you can like notice their crutch.
Yeah.
Because comics are so catty. We're like the cattiest.
Yeah.
We love to talk shit. We love to be like, I don't think that joke was that good. We're just fucking pussies.
But that also comes from our insecurities.
Yeah, that's all where it's from.
It's all looking inwards, and then you start to be like,
someone's killing, and you're like, oh really? And you're like, it's because they're killing.
Yeah, I remember I was at the stand not long ago, and it was probably in my head. I was at the stand, and the crowd was so good.
Yeah.
The crowd was so good at the stand that, like, if you killed it was Def Jam murder.
Yeah.
So if you were good, it was killing.
Yeah.
But if you were really killing, it was like you're gonna walk off and just start signing movie deals. Like you walk off.
You're doing the high fives on the way out.
Yeah. And
when you get high fives on the way out, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Damn.
People were like, dude, that was, and I saw Norman and List were there, and they were like clearly, like you could tell, going like this crowd, like what's with this crowd?
Yeah.
And then I went into the green room. I was like, yeah, that's just too good.
Yeah,
it's too good. But it's the bullshit that you see, and then you don't want to say it, right? Because you feel bad. Yeah. But then you run into somebody else who's real, and you just go, you see it.
Yeah. Yeah, I see what they're doing. Yeah, you're like,
everything I think, and then I talk to you, you like validate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, I'll straight up, there's people I call when I see it online where I'm like, what is this?
Remember I called you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Me and Dan were in the green room somewhere. I'm not going to say where. I'm not going to mention names, but me and Dan in the green room, and someone's in there. And they were in there like they just came back from the moon.
Yeah.
They were in there like they just did something.
They were going to sign our tits. They were like walking around like, you want me to sign your tits? And you're like, I know you. I don't even think you're that good.
Dude, they were acting like so big shot, like, big time in people. And nobody said a word. Nobody said a word. And it was bugging me on my ride home. And I just go, I gotta call Dan. He was there. And I called you, and I was like, I hope Dan doesn't be like, dude, why is Virzi? And you just go, dude, thank God you called. You listen, you go,
I was heated.
You go, oh my God, dude, thank God. You go, I'm so glad you called to say that. What the fuck was that?
I don't know, dude. I've left. If you see me leave quietly, like if you see me leave a room like that, and I walk out, I'm waiting to talk shit. Yeah. It's like, ugh.
If I turn the mics down, you tell me just so I can be in on this right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Mute it.
I'm muting the mics. We'll be back in a moment.
Yeah. There's like
I love how he couldn't wait.
Yeah,
he's like, dude, stop the show.
By the way, I have found out by doing the bonfire when we do stuff like this, it drives people like this, and eating on mic is like the two things that people are like, don't fucking do that.
Oh, you mean chewing?
No, yeah, chewing on mic, but then also like talking shit about someone and you don't give the name. They're like, who is it?
Isn't it funny how fans really critique free shit? They were like, Virzi, can you speak into the microphone?
Yeah.
When you lean back, and it's like, all right, dude, I don't.
We're just in a new dance, man. We're just in a new dance where it's like beholden to the audience.
Did you ever think I dropped out of college to become a radio host? I did. That's why
I left radio to be a podcast guest. I'll see your job, and I'll say I'm fucking.
All I wanted to do was get better and evolve at stand up and keep going and keep going. And people were like, dude, you got to get a show. You got it. And I was like,
dude, I honestly had the reverse thing where I worked in radio from like 19 to fucking 24 or whatever.
Wow.
Just doing like overnight shifts at a rock station.
Yeah.
And it was like, I just wanted to do stand up. And I was like, oh, but if that fails, I can do radio or whatever. And then fucking podcast came out, and it was like, has anyone ever done radio? And you're like,
yeah.
Yeah, you're like, I have experience. Do you guys want to do 40 minutes of nonstop new rock? Because everyone thought when you were like, oh, you did radio, you like did a morning show. You're like, no, man, I'd be like this. And The Offspring. Don't forget to get your tickets.
You have flashbacks?
That's it, dude. Well, I'll be like,
Def Leppard's photograph.
I'm like, what are we going into? Cherub Rock by Smashing Pumpkins? It's 92.1 and 101.3 KFMA, Tucson's only new rock. I'll do that. I used to do that jokingly on the road with like Shane when we'd be in a car. I'd do it as a song was going in. I'd be like, "You're listening to Dan on the Road Radio," and just like fucking around like that.
No, dude, you are. I mean, you could do radio.
I mean, I did radio, and it sucked. It just was like so fun for being 19 and drunk and like a.
Well, you did radio when like radio was the only thing you'd had.
It was crazy.
But you know what's funny is like the best is when a guy's at the end of his rope. Like I did a show. I don't want to mention the names. They don't do it anymore. But I was up there, and it was up near like the Poughkeepsie area, like the Catskills, Hudson Valley.
Yeah.
And I was on the morning show. And dude, the guy was a monster too, could do impressions. Like I remember Brewer would come in and him and Brewer, like the guy was great, but I did it when it was over. Oh. And he would literally be like this. He'd be like, all right, dude, we'll be right back. And he'd go like this. And he would just go, Virzi, dude, I can't even fake it anymore. Dude, during the segments, I saw him playing poker online on the air. Like when the other guy was talking, he would be playing either like solitaire or gambling, and he would just be like, Virzi, I can't even fake it anymore, dude. I got to get the fuck out of here.
Oh, my
dude,
God.
It was like, and then he would come back and be like, anyway, dude, we're back.
I've seen morning show hosts do that all the time where you're like, hey, are you ordering something on Amazon? And they're like, yeah, that's crazy. Dan Soder's. It's the scene from Wayne's World 2. He's putting in tapes. Fuck, dude.
Oh, that's so...
I remember one time, this was, I fucked this guy. I don't even know his name, but it was in Albany. I was doing the Funny Bone, and I had to go do morning radio, and the guy was like, one of the guys that worked on the show was like super into pro wrestling. And so am I. And I showed up, and the guy knew who I was, and he's like, oh, fucking, did you see on SmackDown or whatever? This was years ago. And I was like, yeah, it's crazy. And then we get in the studio, and the guy's like, he had a soul patch or whatever, and he was like wearing like a little beret or something, and he's like, all right, we ready to go on the air? And you could just tell this guy was trying to be Howard Stern. This guy was trying to get me to say something salacious. He was like poking me to get me to be like go. You could just see him being like, he was talking shit about a couple people I worked with on Billions, trying to get me to be like, so she's hot. You ever seen her naked? And I was like, no. And I just wasn't giving it to him. And then he's like, so you watch pro wrestling? I told the story a couple times, and I was like, yeah, I watch pro wrestling. He's like, do you really watch it? And I was like, yes, I do. And he was like, when's the last time you watched it? And I was like, SmackDown on Thursday. What are we doing? And the guy was like, I could just see him being like, do something. And so then I just snapped on him. I was like, what do you like? Tell me what you like, because I can guarantee I can make fun of it with your soul patch, looking like you play stand-up bass. And I just kept going, and then his co-host was like, all right.
Oh, shit.
I was just like, you fucking dickwad. You're in what, the 70th market? Eat a dick.
You know who stinks? Those that one that they say, don't say where you are. Don't say where you are because we're in 140. That was the worst.
And I don't want you to say where you're the club. We'll plug the club.
Dude, and the guy treated us such like shit. I went in there with the feature, and it's I don't even give a fuck. I'll say it because the guy was there, Bob and Tom. Tom and Bob.
Oh my God! Me and Jay had a war with them.
Wait, what is it
we
called?
We tried to have a war with them.
What is it called?
Those old fucks didn't want a piece of this.
Well, the one guy was okay. The guy with the mustache wasn't the worst, but they hated each other when I was there.
They didn't. When I was there, one of them wasn't even in the studio.
No, so when I was there, it was the end of them being together, and they didn't. They almost didn't communicate.
People are like, "Why did you leave the bonfire?" And you're like, "Because I've been on enough morning radio shows where they hate each other, and it is awful to watch."
Dude, what happened with Mike and the Mad Dog? And when Mike and the Mad Dog became when you could, because when I listened to Mike and the Mad Dog in New York, and I'll get back to the Bob and Thompson, whatever. Mike and the Mad Dog Mike and what?
I said we're not done with you. Bob.
Oh no, we're not done. That was fucking horrible. And somebody goes, well, you're gonna go back. I go, no, I'm not.
Yep.
No, I'm not.
Same.
And this is when like I didn't have anything going on. I'm going, I'm not going back.
I wasn't selling shit for
tickets. The way they talked to me, and the way they would like set up the joke, they didn't want. And then they had that third guy,
Chick
McGee or whatever. Yeah. And I go, oh well, dude, that's funny. Is that your real? And the way he wouldn't even acknowledge.
Dude,
fuck that show.
This is how bad I want to be liked. They were mean to me, and I was still trying. I was still like, he was a big Washington football fan.
Yeah.
The sports guy. And I kept being like, this is when my buddy was a coach there. And I was like, hey, my buddy's a coach there. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, you motherfucker. And then I just had too much. And I was like, what is this? No,
dude, I was in there and like, I was being nice in the green room because he was making coffee. And he's like, yeah, we're going to redo this and we're going to make this whole thing. And I'm like, oh, that's cool, man. That's cool.
Like you really give a shit?
Yeah, like I was like, oh, that's nice. You're going to make a nice student. And then I go in there and it was so, and then they would do this thing. They would go, here's a joke from, and they would play a joke. They played jokes from 1993, and I want to go, you got two comedians in here.
They don't like riffing.
I'm headlining the club. My feature is here. And they would just go, so, Paul, I understand you have a like, they would want to set you up.
Yeah.
They want to set you up. So I understand you just had a daughter. And I'm like, dude, it was so bad. And the way I was treated. So I told my managers at the time, I said to Italian, the late great Dave Kimowitz, rest his soul. I can't even believe I have to say that still, but I told him, like, I'm not. They're like, dude, you'll go there next time. And I go, no, you don't understand.
No,
I'm not going there. It was terrible radio. It was fake. They were mean to me, but They didn't like each other, you could tell.
They hated each other.
Now, when you grew up, going back to the fan, when you grew up in New York City and you listened to, and I'm talking about during that Yankee run.
Yeah.
I'm talking about
late
during
90s.
like into the early 2000s.
On WFAN.
Yeah, and even up to when we won it in 09 too against the Phillies. During that time, when you listen to Mike and the Mad Dog, it was beyond radio. It was incredible.
Yeah.
It was almost like the sports equivalent to Opie and Anthony in its heyday, I would say. And then you started to know they didn't like each other, and you would deal with it for a couple years.
Who was the one that fell asleep? Was it Mike?
Mike, I think Mike fell asleep, but then you find out that like in the documentary where like they've been friends forever, and like Mike Francesa's getting married, and he keeps Mad Dog off the list, and his wife goes, "You gotta invite him." Like, you got to invite him to the wedding. Like, what do you... And then he was like, all right. But, like, there were times, dude, especially, like, in New York. This might have been, like, right... When did you get here?
07.
Okay, yeah. So this was, like, around that time.
I remember. I worked at WXRK, and we would carry Giants games on WFAN.
Oh, yeah.
And they would run Mike and Mad Dog promos.
One time they got into an argument where it was almost like you thought they forgot they were on air. He was like, "What are you even talking about, Mike? What are you?" And then he would just go like, "Yeah, you're not." And dude, you felt it. You were like, "Oh, they hate each other.
Yeah,
it's over."
That was like Opie and Anthony at the end. You could just feel them not liking each other. I did the show, and I remember they wouldn't even like the mics go off. They wouldn't talk. And
did you? And I know, dude. I know. Big J's your boy and all that. But did you ever get? Because there's got to be a time. Because listen, I have friends like Giannis, like Burr, Bart. There are certain people that after every day, right? After every day, and listen, one thing I know is I'm an easygoing guy, but sometimes my friends are not, and I'm the type that after a while that would where it's just like, you know what, dude, I'm just gonna do this and go home. Did you have? And I'm sure you guys worked it out, but was there ever a time? How many years was it?
8.
In the 8 years, was there ever a time where you were just like, all right, dude, I need to have a talk with this dude, or this is just a bad day and I'm going to let it go? I mean, not to try to start, so I'm just trying to figure that out.
One of the most fortunate things about doing that show was we enjoyed each other's company the entire time we did it.
That's awesome. Yeah, and you guys, like, I always hear clips, you guys laughing and...
I mean, it was... What's crazy is I don't think structurally it was the greatest radio show, because we would, like, go on, we'd get off topic, but... I'm hard pressed to find another show that had as much fun.
Right.
Like, I had the most fun. And when Bobby and I talked about him taking over when I left, Bobby's like, "I love coming on there because you guys just have fun." He's like, "It's not like O&A where you're trying to watch your back every time." And it was like, no, we made a conscious decision early on to be like, all right, we're gonna have fun. Let's just fuck around.
Yeah, I think that's a better system. And when you listen to some Opie and Anthony, I'm not trying to knock that. It was a great show.
It was one of my favorite pieces of media ever.
Yeah, but there were times where, like, you can hear it's just like, let's attack. Who are we going to attack? Somebody's got to have their back, a lot.
Yeah, well, it was the dynamic of it as a listener, you would know. It was Jim and Anthony making each other laugh, and then Opie kind of aiming them at people. Like, they all... Right. And then they were just... and then they'd have Burr in, they'd have Patrice in, they'd have Colin in, they'd have fucking Jay Moore, Voss, Bobby. I mean, all my favorite comics I learned through that show. That show, Tough Crowd, and the documentary Comedian were, like, all the things that made me want to be a New York comic. Like, I wanted to be a comedian, but that was when I specifically started being like, oh, I have the sensibilities of, like, the New York guys. Like, I like the way they joke around. The LA guys, it was always like flashy and like big. It was like bigger than life, because that's what LA is. It's like Hollywood. And like, I liked the guys where you're like, you can fucking feel that they walked in out of the rain after smoking a cigarette.
Fuck that game show you host.
Yeah. But just like Louis, I remember the call with Rumsfeld where Louis asked him if he was a lizard person, and being like, oh, like listening and being like, what the fuck? And then I remember Louis blowing up and feeling like, I remember when Louis got really big, if you were an O&A fan, you were like, yeah, but he's from O&A. Like, I heard it because Louis his stand-up got big in like 06, 07, but like 02, 03, you would like listen to him on O&A and you'd be like, this guy's so funny. His last name's CK. Like, and Burr and Patrice fighting. Those are my favorite, dude. Bill Burr, learning about Bill Burr via Opie and Anthony, and Patrice, and like I remember them talking shit where like Patrice, I think it was Patrice was in studio and he was making fun of Burr, and Burr called in.
Oh no, dude, I remember that.
Yeah, and they like got into it. And
dude, I got a great story about that. I got a fucking great story about that. I'm glad you brought that up, dude. Which
is on YouTube. Go check it out. It's great. It's somewhere on YouTube.
No, it's on YouTube, but I got a great story about that. So that was around the time where I was like first opening for Bill. So the first time I opened for Bill, because I haven't opened for Bill now, I keep thinking like it seems like I haven't opened for Bill in 6 years.
I saw you open for Bill. Nate and I were in the audience in 2009. I saw Carnegie. I saw you open for Carnegie, but I saw you at Town Hall.
Oh, okay.
When it went you, DeRosa, Burr, and it was for the New York Comedy Festival, 2000.
You did something I'll never forget.
8 or 9.
You did something for me that I'll never forget. I was so nervous. I was in my early 30s. It was my birthday, and Bill said, "I want you to open at Carnegie Hall." He's like, "Dude, you've done the job on the road. I want you to open Carnegie Hall." And I was super nervous. And my dad was there, who's the only show he's ever seen.
Really?
Still, because
what a cool show to see.
Yeah,
because by the way, that Carnegie Hall show was a fucking banger.
And I'll never forget, I was more nervous than anything ever. It was the first real big one, because before that was Town Hall, and Bill had us on there, and we're up in the room, and we're all quiet and looking down, and DeRosa's everyone, and as Bill says, DeRosa was muttering in a sport coat, and we were all looking at the ground, and like Bill broke the tension by going, "Not one to fuck up," you know?
Yeah.
And then I go out there and I do it, and I remember it went great, and I go in the green room, and I'm hugging my managers, and I'm floating, and my phone buzzes, and it was you from the audience.
Yeah, I was up in
I'll never forget this.
I was up at like the top.
And that's when I was like, dude, this guy is just a good fucking guy. Like, it wasn't that, oh, shit, you were just, and I looked at my phone, and you just go, "It's Soder, dude. Great set. We're in the crowd," or something. And, dude, it was, like, awesome, man. And that feeling was incredible.
Yeah.
But during that time, so Bill, I started opening for Bill, like, 08, like, a lot. Like, where he would just be, "Hey, I'm in D.C.," mainly on the East Coast.
Sure.
Because he had his West Coast guys.
Yeah.
You know? So the Patrice thing happens, where they fucking set him up. They set Bill up.
Yeah.
What happened with Opie and Anthony was Bill called up, and then like, "Hey, dude, so what happened?" And Bill just goes, "What did that cocksucker say?"
Yeah.
And then they tell him, Opie and Anthony tell Bill what Patrice had said, right? And then all of a sudden, I didn't like this. They blindsided Bill, and they go, "Well, we got him on the line, Patrice."
Oh,
and
that's what it was. He was on the phone, too. I thought one of them was in the studio.
He was on the phone.
Yeah, I remember that.
So now Bill is like, "That fuck, he said this," and all of a sudden they blindside Bill, and all of a sudden they're talking. Now, okay, I get the call to open for Patrice for a whole weekend and Bananas in Hasbrook Heights.
Sure.
Okay? And it's Opie and Anthony crowd. The parking lot's filled. The place is packed. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm going like, you know, Bill, I'm so loyal to Bill.
Yeah,
Bill
yeah.
it would be like, I'm trying to think of like when somebody brings somebody under their wing. It's
I'm
like,
telling you right now, if you wouldn't have been in comedy, if you would have been born 2 decades earlier, maybe, you would have been the perfect mafia soldier.
Yeah.
In the world, because of your loyalty and shit, the way you're like, "You don't cross the family." You could have said that.
No, but the Sicilian, it's really, I can't.
I mean, it really
and
is.
It's funny.
You could see it being like, "Yeah, dude, you be a made man."
Because of that text you sent me at Carnegie Hall, I would hurt somebody for you. Dude, I would hurt somebody for you. I love you so much that I was like, dude, Soder? Let's go. Get in the car. Like, it's just, and the funny thing is, I'm talking about it in my act a little bit where, like, we thought that was cute when my daughter did that young, but in her adult, not her adult, in her young growth now, she has it, and my son does not.
Really?
So no, my wife is like Scandinavian. My wife is like Swedish and Finnish.
That's what I am.
Like, yeah, my wife is Swedish.
Stubborn as hell.
You know, very stubborn, very strong, but she doesn't. But so my son is that.
Yeah.
Light, it's like.
So that's what's really funny, because I have my mom's Irish temper. I have like that fucking quick to blow up, annihilate everything.
Yeah.
And then I have the stubbornness of my father, who is Swedish. So there's like a very like, I'm stubborn and I'll blow the fuck up. So it's not good.
No.
But you were saying,
but I had that loyal thing. So I was like, and I also had the thing of Patrice would call people out. Patrice would make fun of people.
Yeah.
So I go into Bananas, and I never forget this. I was like, man, fuck that. What is he? If he says something to me like fuck him, I'll call the.
I love those car rides.
And I'm literally going
where you're like mapping it out.
No, I'm mapping it out, and I'm going like, you know, rest his soul. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but in my mind, I'm going like, yeah, you fat fuck, like all this thing, right?
Yeah.
Dude, I get there, and he's just this. I swear to God, dude, I'll never. It's actually like one of the things notches under my belt. What's up, man? And I'll never forget. He's just quiet, sitting there at the comics table in the back of Bananas, and
in the restaurant.
In the back.
And
he just goes, and I just go, hey man, like, and he was just, hey, he nodded. He was just very quiet and shy. And now all of a sudden I'm completely diffused.
You're like, why did I get all
And like
mad?
the place is, and then all of a sudden I was just like, oh man, this is packed, man. Congrats or something. And he was like, yeah, it's pretty good. He was calm. And then the host goes up, and this was around Chappelle's show.
Yeah.
So when the host goes up, the host has a hard time, and somebody in the crowd was like, wrap it up, you know, like, you know, something like that. And I kind of felt bad for the kid. And then I went up, and I had a monster set, and I walk off, and Patrice is by me, and he looks at me, and I swear to God, I'll never forget his face. And he just goes, and he gives me a thumbs up, and he goes like this. Then at Comics, he was working, and Harris Stanton was opening, and they put me, and Ryan Reese was hosting.
Okay.
So it was Ryan Reese, Harris Stanton, and Patrice. This is a couple months later in a blizzard, in a fucking blizzard, right? And they were like, do a guest spot. So I do a guest spot. And then there's a blizzard outside. Now, Patrice said one of the most amazing things. He's the only guy that would say something so profound and get a clap break and then be like, so does she eat ass? Like it was like that, right?
Yeah.
And he did that thing where he was like, we cheat on you because we love you. And the way he said that, right? I'll never forget this. This is the greatest Patrice O'Neal thing. And it let me know what Bill and all the people that talked about him talked about. I'm in the green room and it's Patrice. And it's his agent, and it's all these people, and there's like an entourage, and then D.L. Hughley is sitting next to Patrice, okay? And he's D.L. Hughley, like
he's a king of comedy.
And when Patrice talked, D.L. Hughley was sitting there with his head down, just looking, nodding, and listening. And I'm watching this guy hold court, who, compared to D.L. Hughley, nobody really knows. And if you know, you know. But if you don't know, you don't. And he's holding court, and when I tell you, like, D.L. Hughley is the big star in the room, and dude, he totally gave the ball.
Yeah, and he's like, go score, dude.
Yeah, go score. And then at the end, we waited. I don't know if they were smoking weed. The door was locked, but my pea coat was in there, and it was just Patrice and like a couple people. And I just knock, and I just and I go, yeah, man, I'm sorry, I did a guess, but my coat's in there. He just goes, what's it look like? And I go, it's blue with the blue. And he just, a hand comes out, he gives it to me. So I'm by the bar waiting. He finally comes out, and I go, hey, dude, I go, thank you so much for the spot. He goes, no, thank you. And I was like, yeah, I hope it for you nice. He goes, yeah, you look familiar. And I never forget, I said to him, I go, dude, I'll be honest with you, man. I knew you were good. And then I pointed to the showroom, and I go, but I didn't know you were that good. And he just goes, ha ha. He laughed like that.
That's great.
And then we took a picture. That's the last time. And I think he passed away not too long after that. But when he gave me the thumbs up and did that, and just did that, it was just one of those things where it was like, this is a guy I thought could make fun of me. This is a guy. Now I'm also worried because I'm Bill's tick. And it was just like, and you go like, none of that matters. Like, it's all.
Colin Quinn said it on Opie and Anthony when Patrice died, where he was like, yeah, right now Patrice is up in heaven making 50% of the people uncomfortable and 50% of the people comfortable, and then he's switching it. Because it was like, I came up as an open micer in New York.
Yeah.
I like started in Tucson, did 2 years, came back here, moved here, and then just basically was like, I'm going to start from the bottom.
Yeah,
so I was doing mics, I was barking, I was like doing I would do a lot of check spots in stand-up New York, and Patrice would be there a lot.
Yeah.
And I knew who Patrice was. I knew. I was like, I had dossiers on all these motherfuckers. They would walk in, and I'd be like, I know them. I know this. Rich and Bonnie had just gotten married. I knew way too much about that. It was like uncomfortable. And I would do check spots and just bomb.
You were like George Soros on Trump.
Oh, dude, I just like laid it out where I was like, I have all these cases, but but I remember I would do the 8 and the 10 o'clock because Wayne Rada was managing Patrice, and then he was booking Stand Up New York. And Mike Britt did the coolest thing ever.
Mike Britt's a monster.
Mike Britt's the fucking man.
Yeah.
And I would be at Stand Up New York waiting for a guest spot, just like, can I do a check spot?
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know, it's where they drop the checks in between the last two comics.
Yep.
Everyone pays their checks, and someone dies on stage while they pay their checks. But I noticed a lot of people weren't doing it. Stand Up New York was one of the best clubs in the city at the time, so I was like, let me get up.
Not to interrupt, what doing the check spot is? It's like being Mr. Irrelevant in the draft.
100%. I was Brock Purdy, baby. I was Brock Purdy, dude. It was a Purdy party.
Yeah.
But I used to just bomb. And, Patrice or Attell would be there, and you'd be like, they're the last comic. So I would bomb in front of Attell. I'd bomb in front of Patrice.
Yeah.
Big J was like closing a lot of the shows, and I'd be mortified.
Yeah.
So I would just go and sit at the corner of the bar and drink my Budweiser and just wait for the next show, just wait for the next beating. And I remember in between shows, Stand Up New York would like be packed out, and they would have to like empty everyone out. And Rick the bartender, R.I.P., would like help clear it out or whatever.
Oh, yes.
So they clear out the 8 o'clock show, and there's no one in the room except me and Patrice. And I'm like, and I've seen Patrice eat people up. So I'm just like, shut the fuck up. Don't talk to him. Speak when spoken to with Patrice.
Right.
And because it's not like I'm killing in front of him. Like, he's watched me bomb. He knows I stink.
Yeah.
And so I'm like sitting there, and I'm just drinking a beer, just like, it's just before smartphones.
What is this, 08, 09?
It was like 07.
Okay.
I'm just like staring at my beer or whatever. And Patrice is like thumbing through I remember it was a New York Post. He's like flipping through it. He goes, Youngblood, who's your top 5 porn stars? And I go, are we going by nastiness? And he goes, shit, yes. And I went, Ava Devine. This is like, oh, and he went, okay. Like the first one. I remember I hit him with that. I was like, Ava Devine, Lisa Ann, and he went, okay. He was like, he liked where it was going. And then Wayne came in and started talking to him. So I'm like, oh, well, I'm friends with Patrice now. And the next week I come back and he's there and he walks in and I'm like, hey, what's up, Patrice? And he's like, and I was like, shut up, you fucking idiot. I like walked away. I was like, you got too fucking comfortable. I was so mad at myself. But he was the man. And having him around was like, it's weird because it's like that with Attell. Like Attell comes around and you're like, it's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
I said that to Louis years ago. One time I walked into the cellar and Louis was on. They were like, Louis going to go up. And I was like, this is the only job where you show up to your desk and your hero's sitting at it. Being like, hey, I got to go through some of this paperwork. And you're like, yeah. I was going to get some work done, but you go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, this is the only...
like why you're the reason I am at this job.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
But you think, like, I bet you, like, doctors and surgeons have it.
Yeah.
Like, you show up and, like, you know that the doctor did, like, a quadruple bypass that's in, like, the textbook.
They're like, oh, my God, Dr. Garden-Schwartz. This guy redefined brain surgery.
Dude, me and Garden Schwartz were literally having a tuna sandwich.
I was at your lecture. I was at your lecture at Harvard where you went through that. And he's like, well, okay. And the brain does react to it that way. That's how it feels when it's like a Louis or like Chappelle coming in. You're like, I studied this guy's dissertation 40 times.
Nobody thought that quadruple would pass.
No one did a quadruple bypass. And then Louis said, fuck his kids. And everyone was like, yeah, fuck your kids.
Did you ever watch Top Chef?
Yeah.
When they announce like the guest judge and they're like, it's Chef Martinez, and these people like fall out of their chairs.
They did a vinaigrette that made my mom come. Yeah, I was like, all right. Yeah. But it's like I still get that feeling when like Burr comes around because I didn't know Burr. You know Burr. Burr moved to L.A. right when I moved to New York.
So many people say that to me, and like he's a different dude. Like it's funny though. The reason why, like, we're different personalities, but we're similar in the fact that like we keep it small. I keep it small, dude.
Yeah.
And like he's like that, so I think we kind of have that. Like I'm just not never will be like a comedy poker night. Like hey Dan, I'll see you at the comedy basketball game, and then we're all gonna go. Yeah, it's like
I want to go home to my wife and dog.
And the older I get, dude, I'm such a homebody.
Oh, I'm like I got a DVR chock full of stuff that's better than you.
But what you're saying too is like with the Patrice thing is I feel like Patrice did something good. I never want to hate or call anybody out, but if it's done wrong, because there's a lot of shit going on now on podcasts. There's a lot of I would say stories that are maybe made up. I would say that there's a lot of
no one has bits anymore, dude.
Yeah.
So I started doing this thing where I'm like Bill Burr's.
I love how you just saved me. Go ahead.
Because I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But I know exactly what you mean. There's a lot of fugazi going on.
Yeah.
Where like that's not real. That's not a real thing. And then these people are making a lot of money.
What it is the fake shit will get more followers and do that stuff.
Yeah.
And
I see people that you could see who's in this business for certain stuff after a while. Where you're like, oh, you don't really care about being funny. You care about being rich. You care about being famous.
Yeah.
You care about like. And the thing is
there's an emptiness to that. Though.
I love stand-up.
Yeah, me too.
Because it was the thing that saved me from my loneliness when I was little.
Yeah.
Like I liked comedy. Comedy Central used to be awesome.
Yeah.
It used to play stand-up all the time.
Yeah.
And you would see, like I remember watching a Premium Blend and it was Patrice, Gary Goldman, and someone else. And I was like,
yeah,
that's a banger of an episode.
Yeah. But
I used to just love it. And so now what it is, it's like, now I'll stop watching stand-up so I can still love it. So like
100%.
If Burr is at the stand or Chappelle's at the cellar, I won't watch them.
No.
Because I don't want to see this. I want to see the final product.
Yeah, I don't even watch. I know some comics that don't. I don't watch comedy at all. I don't watch it. I don't watch it. What I'll do is if I'm scrolling through the phone and it's a friend. And
you're talking about on social media.
No, I don't watch stand-up ever, but if I'm scrolling through my phone and you're up there and some, or like there's a Giannis clip or something like that, or I'm just like going through and all of a sudden the audio comes on, I'll listen to the bit, but I don't watch it. But what I care about is like when I go to a club and, I was just at Zany's in Chicago.
Great club. I was just there as well.
Oh, you were probably there a couple weeks after me.
Yeah, I was there last week.
And it was an amazing time, sold out shows, great fans, real fans, podcast fans. And when the staff goes, hey, dude, like, we see this all the time. Like, dude, you're killer. You should be in the theater or something. When that shit happens, and like, that's why I got into stand-up comedy. Not to sound corny, but like, I know I still have work to do. And I knew 5 years ago I had work to do. And I know that I'm going to continue to have work to do. But that's why I got in it. When I see the Fugazi shit to get the followers, and I see people go, oh, well, this is what it is now to get famous.
Yeah.
See, I didn't get into stand-up to be rich and famous. I got into stand-up to get better, and see where it can go.
I mean, I'm still like blown away where, you know, I don't want to give your location up, but where you record is very close to where I waited tables. I waited tables a block away from here. And so I had the cab drop me off right in front of where I used to wait tables. And it's like empty building now.
You come in crying.
Dude, no, but I came in like, I was so miserable at that job. I was so miserable for 5 years of just doing mics and spots at night, waking up and taking it was just this Midtown. So there's like all these bankers and shit would come in and treat me like dog shit. And I would just wait to go do stand-up at night. The fact that I'm like, I'm going to my buddy's podcast near here. I ain't got to wait tables tonight. You know, It was like this thing where you're like, oh, this is worth it for me. Everything like...
Dude, and what you did too, like traveling, like that's the difference between being in New York and living here and growing up here and going down and trying it than what you did. What you did was you left an existence in a place that is not show business at all.
At all.
And you came here and you fucking ate shit. You ate shit in front of your heroes.
Oh, my God.
You fucking worked at a
Munched
bank.
it.
And then I remember, dude, when I got here, I remember when you really started to like flex your chest out in a non-arrogant way, but in a way of like, dude, I'm coming. And it was after you murdered on JFL.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember you were like, dude, it was so much fun. And people were talking. And then, you know, you got the Comedy Central thing. And it's like, when those nuggets happen, because you need those nuggets.
Yeah.
You need that, right? Like
well, now it's like, now the equivalent of that is like a new bit. Like when you get a new bit and you do it in the city and you're like, because you're on the road, those are your fans. So they're like giving you love no matter what. So it's kind of, you're like, oh, that bit works. That's cool. Let me see it. And then you go in the city and then you can like, compared to other people's sets, because the city crowds it's a mishmash. They're all there for different reasons. They're not overwhelmingly there for you. When you have a bit that other comics are like, what the fuck? You're like, yes. That's when you're like, what's up?
When somebody was like, dude, that fucking bit is going to be...
Louis Katz is one of my favorite human beings. I also think he's one of the funniest people out there, and he's like one of the tightest writers. Louis Katz goes on the road with Attell. He's like the man. He has jokes that are fucking airtight. And last night I got off stage, and we had just worked together in Sacramento, and he's like, where did you get that bit? And I was like, it's new. And he was like, oh, dude, it's done. You don't have to do anything to it. And you're like, let's fucking go. Just that whole, like, all the way home, I was like, let's fucking go. And then watch me have a mediocre set tonight and be like, I fucking suck,
No, dude, I got one right now that is quick. There's no fat. Every time I hit the punchline, whether it's big room, small room, it's one of those that it's like, wait, and it's brand fucking new. And it hits hard.
It made me feel better. I saw an interview with Louis C.K. where he compared jokes aging to fruit. Where he's like, it ripens, and you're like, this, and then it goes rotten, and you don't know why it's rotten.
It's
weird. And it's like, because that joke right now, I bet if I come back in 2-3 months and ask you about that joke, you'll be like, yeah, it does all right.
You want to know? As soon as I got the joke,
you get excited. You're like, oh,
and
shit.
It's clean. Here's the thing: it's clean, it's tight. Okay, but it's one of those things where I called my manager after I wrote it. I called my manager and I go, dude, should I love it so much. Should I just do it on late night just because it's a perfect joke? And he was, and we're just like, let's just wait. Let's just wait to see, because it's one of those where it's like, it's quick, it's clean, there's zero fat, and it won't fail because it hits home and it touches because it's deep. It's fucking one of those.
That's like part of the problem with comedy now is like the Cellar has such an unbelievable setup with filming and stuff. But now I'm just like getting texts from people that are like, hey, I work at the Cellar. I clipped and captioned this joke. And you're like, that's a new joke. I don't want that going out yet. And they're like, but it's a great clip and we're going to publish it. And you're like, don't publish it. It's a new joke. And they're like, but it worked really well. And you're like,
the Cellar asked me to do that. And listen, I'll be on like,
the Mint thing is cool because it's a beautifully filmed set.
Yeah, but I don't want anything out.
Yeah, you gotta go do old stuff.
I don't want to. Yeah, and I see the thing is I can't. That is something that I can't do because when it's over with me, it's out of my heart. Not only that, it's out of my heart, dude. Sometimes I don't remember. You ever have somebody go, hey, dude, do that joke from your album? I'm like, I don't know how to do it.
I've argued with people that I haven't done jokes before. They're like, you had that joke where you said like, ba-ba-ba, and I go, that wasn't me, man, sorry. And then like later I'd be like, oh, fuck, that was me.
That's
funny.
funny.
And that joke went like, ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. You ever tried to do an old joke on stage and you can't find the beats? It sucks so bad because like I had a buddy of mine that I like went to middle school with, lives in Chicago with his wife.
Yeah.
And I used to have this joke about how we were on a Pop Warner football team and we lost 116-0, and he was the quarterback of that team. So he was in the audience, and this was at Zany's, and I was like, I gotta do this joke. He's never heard it. It's never been on anything.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, it's funny because he was there and it's like a real thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like trying to get into it and I couldn't find it. When I got into it, I was all right. But like trying to get into it, I was like, how the fuck did I set this joke up?
Yeah.
And then you're just like, oh shit, I don't know. I just gotta talk. But yeah, I like the one thing I love about you and the one thing I love about bumping into you is that you can tell the guys that love comedy by the way they talk about comedy.
Yeah,
Even like Nate Bargatze's doing arenas now.
Me and Nate just had a conversation the other day.
Exactly. You can call him, and he's the exact same as he was in 2011 talking about comedy.
Oh, yeah.
He's the exact same.
Yeah,
like Giannis. Exact same.
Everybody.
You can call Giannis and be like, I do this joke, but and he'll be like, oh, yeah, well, it's...
Everybody that I've met in comedy that's great, and I mean this, everybody I met in this business that's great, no matter how much money, whether they're, you know, super rich, a little rich, middle, this, that, broke, whatever, that are all good people, they have zero changed. Yeah. I know people in this business that have a lot of money. I know people in this business, but the good dudes, man, it's just like we love what we do, and like and it's like you said it's an evolution. Keep getting better, keep going up, keep testing yourself. Is that joke good enough? Is that joke smart enough? You know?
Colin Quinn.
I call him the comedy Jedi.
Him and Dave Attell are the two Jedis.
Yeah.
They are constantly evolving.
Yeah.
And they are constantly, every time I see Colin Quinn do a new hour, I'm like, what the
Dude,
fuck?
I just pictured them, as soon as you said that, I just pictured them in Jedi robes having literally having a lightsaber fight.
Oh,
and I was thinking, who would fucking win?
I don't know.
And
their styles are so different. I think like Attell's style is more like his Jedi powers are like picking stuff up and throwing them at him, and, you know. And then Colin's got the fucking lightsaber, and he's like, oh, you know, I thought we were having a sword fight. Turns out you're gonna throw shit at me with your mind. And he's like, yeah, well maybe that's a lie, you know. The force is weak with you, you know. Oh, dude, I love a fucking Colin Quinn Attell.
Oh, dude, I just with the hood and Attell would look shorter.
And then you realize Chappelle's the emperor, and he's just in the back, and he's like, give in to your hate. I can feel the darkness growing in you. Give in.
Actually, Mike, you got to take a still. I'm going to look at you like...
He's got to do that. He's like... Dave Chappelle is the emperor. You're fueled by your hate. Give in to your hate. Good.
Chris Rock comes out.
Yeah, he's like, I'm your father. Yeah, I can't do. I can't do. Can't do Chris.
Oh
Rock.
Shit!
But yeah, dude, that's so Attell and Colin Quinn fighting. Yeah, dude, those are the guys where like, I think every single New York City comedian has been influenced a little bit to greatly by Colin Quinn and Dave Attell. I think they're like, I would go as far as to say like the two most important New York comedians of all time.
When you hear something from them, like when you said what Louis said to you. It makes
Louis said that on an interview. He didn't say shit to me.
No, but I'm saying when those guys say something good to you.
Oh, yeah.
And like Colin Quinn was on the show, and he was like, dude, I watched your special. It was just great writing and something. And I was just literally, I go, dude, you're a comedy Jedi. And he laughed. And the other thing is he doesn't do podcasts.
Yeah.
He doesn't. And like Colin Quinn is a fucking... Dude, I'll tell you Colin Quinn's story. When I was like a year in comedy, we were like, me and my buddy were like, dude, let's go to the cellar.
Yeah.
And there was a drip. I swear to God.
Yeah, the drip was there for a while.
There was a drip.
And it went down my neck one time.
And during the thing, he held a cup of water.
So funny.
And he let the thing go in and did his set. And dude, it kept going so long, you forgot. You forgot he was there holding it. He just fucking did. And I told him that years later, and he fucking remembered it, dude.
That's so great.
Yeah.
I met Colin Quinn the first time with Joe List, and we were like drinking beers at the cellar, and Joe was going to audition. It's like 07. And Colin like came upstairs in a sweatsuit, and he was like sweaty. He was big. He like gained weight, and he like leaned into the both of us. I never met the man. And he's like, Joseph, hello, who's your friend? And he goes, oh, this is Dan Soder. And he goes, what's your last name? And I go, it's Soder. And I just remember Colin going, ugh, change it. And then he walked out, and I was like blown away, because Colin was like one of my heroes.
Yeah, yeah.
So like to meet him, that was like when you moved to New York.
Yeah.
Because you're from here, so like you come here and you're like, hey, it's New York. Like you and Giannis, you're like, yeah, whatever. When you move here from the middle of the country, and you're a huge comedy fan, there's nothing cooler than like Chris Rock just walking in to do a set. Or like Colin Quinn.
First set I ever had at the Cellar as a paid regular pass at the Cellar or whatever. I got bumped by Rock. It was right after Tangerine came out, and he went
Tambourine?
up. Was it?
Yeah, Tambourine.
Yeah, what did I say? Tangerine. No,
Yeah, Tangerine.
Tambourine was the one.
That was his
the
Netflix.
first. The Netflix one he did, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
first one.
Yeah.
And I went on stage after, and I go, oh, great. I go, this is my first paid. This is my first paid Comedy Cellar thing, and I'm following Chris Rock, and everybody cried, and they go, bring it. And it was fine, but he was respectful because he only did. He was one of those where he didn't do when those guys pop in and he did like 15, 20 and got off, which was great.
Yeah.
And I heard Chappelle doesn't like doing that. That's why he'll go to the stand and he'll just have the night.
That's smart.
He'll just get on and have Cypher Sounds DJ, and he'll start at 1.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, dude, this is going on till 4:30.
I've talked about this on stage. I've talked about this on podcasts, but during the pandemic, the stand was like, we're going to do inside shows. And then Chappelle was like, I'm going to do those inside shows. And we all got bumped back outside. And we had to do that show, on that patio.
After I did it twice, I told Patrick I can't.
Well, they were like, I thought we were supposed to be inside. And he's like, so the show's outside and you're there. So you're like, all right, I'll do the fucking show. But bombing in front of Chappelle's crowd, who are all hot and cool, and they're all waiting to get tested for COVID. And I was just standing outside while a heroin guy and his dog are across the street watching me just absolutely cake. Oh my God, dude. And, everyone's it was all these hot people that look like they're in fucking jean ads, and they're waiting to see Chappelle, and I'm up there sweating for 6 people in the patio yeah, so COVID's been hard.
Dude, I looked at 2 people. I go, guys, take a good look. I'm never doing this again.
Oh, my God.
I'm never doing this again.
I took so many beatings because I just wanted to do stand-up, and I'd just go outside and bomb. And
you weren't one of those guys that were standing in the park, though, with a karaoke
I didn't do
machine,
the park thing.
No.
I didn't do the park thing. I would have killed myself.
Yeah, guys standing on trucks.
I did rooftops, though. New York Comedy Club had a good rooftop.
No, yeah. If it's done.
They had a good rooftop, and then there was a show that was in an alley next to a synagogue that was a fucking bang.
Dude, Emilio finds a way to he'd be like, dude, I know it sounds crazy. You're going to stand on a bus.
It was like Fight Club. He's like, the 40-40 Club? Well, you're going to come in the service entrance. Downstairs, it's nothing but pavement.
He's like, hear me out, dude. Yeah. People love it.
Parking garage, 32nd Street.
I think
on the west side.
I think the bottom of that was the train car shows. Yeah. People do shows on the end going downtown.
They were on the back of the in the empty cart, and then people paid and they sat and people were standing on the thing moving. Yeah, I was like, yeah, man.
No.
Yeah.
Don't bring us back. Let's back inside, dude.
What have we agreed to?
A life of. Here's the thing about it. We're a carnival act. And so the money.
See, I hate hearing that.
But it is.
I know. When Jessica Kirsten says I'm a traveling clown, or Giannis is it's the lowest.
I'm a mall
form.
clown.
I'm like, yeah, but
we are.
Yeah, but we also fucking.
Here's why, Paul. It keeps the pool small. We're supposed. When we know that and we're okay with it, we avoid the.
It's funny how my Italian pride is I'm not a fucking clown.
But you are.
Don't.
And here's the problem: when you're not. And comedy looks cool.
Yeah.
And comedy looks like you can do it.
Yeah.
You have the problem we have now, which is we're at capacity. We're over capacity.
Yeah.
Fire marshal kick a lot of people out of this business right now.
We're at capacity.
I'm telling you.
There needs to be a guy on a loudspeaker. We're going to need some people to leave.
If you haven't done an open mic, you're going to need to leave. You're going to need to go to the back and take a ticket. There is a...
That's why... That's another reason. Hold on real quick. That's another reason I love Soder. No matter what you do silly, you jump in.
Oh,
it's the best.
Dude, somebody a long time ago, which I've taken this as my moniker, a long time ago on the Opie and Anthony subreddit, when I started going on Opie and Anthony, someone wrote, damn, dude, Dan Soder is just a golden retriever of comedy. You just throw that ball and he goes after it. And I was like, I've never heard a perfect description of me.
That's why I get it, because you could say the most silly shit and you just go in.
Oh, yeah, dude, I love it. But it's I think comedy right now has inherited all the people that were supposed to be VJs on MTV, DJs at parties.
Yep.
And all those people that were remember 2012, how many DJs there were? Because MacBook, you just set your MacBook up and then plug in.
Yeah.
That's comedy now.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, I'm a comic. Give me a mic. I'll just talk into it. And you're like, yeah, but you're not.
Right.
You're not doing stand-up.
Do you, like, one thing I've learned and what has helped me be more successful is not worry about what anybody else is doing.
That's huge.
And because you would see somebody that was clearly doing it maybe wrong or cutting corners, and you would be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But now it's like, that what the fuck does nothing for me.
I got over that, man. I got over that in the pandemic.
Me too.
I got over that in the pandemic. It's still fun to talk shit and be like, oh, that joke stinks. But as far as, like, I don't care. I had to really get over it. I was like, I don't care if you're doing this because what you do doesn't affect me.
Right, it doesn't.
So, and like I said, like I truly am very happy when I have new jokes that work and new jokes that are like, this feels good.
Because you love comedy. So we got only a couple more minutes. I want to ask you this question: who are if you had to go top 5 best people you've met in the business?
Oh,
not necessarily comedy.
Yeah.
But best people.
Yeah. Fuck.
You know who I met? Who's in mine is Saget, rest his soul, dude.
Really?
Yeah, dude. I met him. He was the first like big name to ever make me feel good. I performed in front of him and Stamos. They were in the front row watching at Stand Up New York, and and he was. I was like, God. He was like, no, that was great. He was great.
I mean, as far as like.
Artie Lang, great.
Artie Lang was great. I mean, I would say Colin Quinn. He's a great dude.
Yeah.
Joe List.
Yeah.
Bobby Kelly.
Yeah.
Who I was afraid of. Yeah, Jamar Neighbors is up there. We're still doing it. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We're still finishing my episode.
Yeah, we're almost done. Jamar Neighbors coming on.
Jamar Neighbors. Watch out for that episode. He keeps popping up in the window. Bobby Kelly, Joe List, Colin Quinn. Honestly, Keith Robinson.
Okay.
Keith's a great shit talker, but that's a form of...
I love how you set it up with honestly.
Because he is. Because Keith talks shit. But the thing about Keith is, Keith believes... When he likes you, he believes in you. In a way that, like...
Yeah.
It's very... endearing, and it's very like motivating.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Because Keith is like, oh, he stinks. And I remember one time, right when I got in the cellar early, like 2010, 11, when I first started working in the cellar, I said something about somebody, or I go, yeah, man, but he's so funny. And Keith goes, don't ever do that. If you're just as funny as him, don't ever do that to yourself. Because he was talking about, I was putting myself down in order to like praise this other person.
A lot of comics do that where they're just like, it's we have that thing.
Yeah, we're like, I suck, like, they're great.
And it's almost like, no, but you go in and crush. You know?
And so I think Keith is like, he's a secret great. He would never want anyone to know that. But he's a great person.
Yeah.
And Jessica Kirson.
Jim Florentine.
Florentine's the man.
The best.
I mean, Florentine's the man. And now that McDaniel's coaching for the Dolphins, Florentine, like, you know, we have like a more, we talk more now.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, go Dolphins. And he loves the Fins. So, yeah, I fucking love Jim Florentine. He's always been so fucking cool to me.
Yeah, I'm going down to Florida with
I love him, dude. His son got into wrestling. He was like, ask me about it. I was like, dude, I'll talk wrestling all day. He's like, it's great. You know, he loves
brutal.
It. I love fucking brutal. Yeah, but those are like there's a lot of shitheads in this business, and I think that's what the lights shined on most of the time. But there's a lot of great people in this shit too.
Yeah, and I think the shitheads when the light shines on them too. I don't, you know, some of them are great and do it right, but when I just see some of the things I'm seeing, I'm going, you know what, man, they got to look in the mirror. Like that's the other thing too, man. Like you do it a shitty way, you know. It's like that dude who was jacking home runs. He had like 50 home runs like at the All-Star break, and everybody on the bench is like, dude, look at your neck.
Yeah,
I know what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah. You're not doing this honestly.
Yeah. Dude, please plug, guys. Obviously, this is somebody that you have to go and see if you don't know already. Where can I see you, man? What do you got coming up?
DanSoder.com. When's this coming out? Next week? 2 weeks?
No, this is coming out in a couple days.
Couple days?
Yeah, a couple days.
Oh, shit. I will be in Pittsburgh at the Pittsburgh Improv.
Nice.
Indianapolis Helium. Columbus Funny Bone. Kansas City Comedy Club for one night. I'm going to be at the Blue Room in Springfield, Missouri. I'm all over the road, dude. DanSoder.com. I am going hard on the road through the end of the year. So if you live somewhere, I'll probably be near it at some point this year.
Check Dan out, DanSoder.com. Guys, I want to thank everybody who came out and sold out the shows at the Providence Comedy Connection, dude. I had such a great time. Up next is April 14th, 15th. I'll be at one of my favorite rooms in America, Wise Guys, Salt Lake City.
Ooh.
2 Friday,
I was just there.
2 Saturday,
Ooh.
and then the following Sunday, April 16th, I'm doing one night, one show only at the Denver Comedy Works. I'm doing that, and then we have Raleigh, we have Charlotte, we have Tampa. April 28th to 29th, I'll be doing 4 shows at the Vulcan Gas Company. Gonna try to roll into a Rogan spot, maybe do a spot.
Comedy Mothership.
And then and we have Raleigh, we have Charlotte, we have Tampa. What else do we have? We have a bunch on there, a bunch of dates on there. I'm going to Stamford, Connecticut. PaulVirzi.com for all tickets. Thank you guys for listening to the episode. Please like and subscribe, rate the show. What else? Anything Better podcast every other week with Bill Burr and me and Bobby Kelly. Bone to Pick podcast. You guys could check that out next week. Dan, you're the fucking best. We're going to do it again. Good luck with your Niners.
And good luck to you. I won't say to the Giants because we're playing.
See you next week.